As the night settles softly over the medieval countryside, you might notice a gentle curiosity rising inside you, a quiet thought wondering how it must have felt to live in a home lit only by firelight and the calm rhythm of evening chores. As you listen, you may begin to feel a warm sense of stillness, the kind that invites sleepiness and the soft crackle of an imagined campfire beside you. You're safe here, you're welcome here, and this story unfolds slowly, at a pace meant to ease your thoughts. Take this moment as a little nightly ritual, a chance to rest your tired mind. And with that, let's drift gently into our journey tonight. Before we go any further, from which country are you listening? And what time is it where you are right now? If you're enjoying this peaceful kind of history, you're always welcome to tap the like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. It truly helps this small channel continue creating quiet moments like this for you. Imagine standing at the edge of a medieval village as the last traces of daylight fade. Homes are built from timber, stone, or packed earth, each one holding warmth from the day and letting it slip slowly into the cooling evening air. You can almost hear the low hum of distant voices, the shuffle of feet, and the gentle closing of wooden shutters as families settle inside. Everything begins to slow, as if the entire village is letting out a long, peaceful breath. Inside one of these humble homes, a small cooking fire glows softly, not blazing but steady, offering enough warmth to push back the night chill. The space is simple, filled with tools, baskets, and folded cloth, all carefully arranged by hands that value practicality and care. The atmosphere carries a calm sense of routine, a rhythm shaped not by clocks but by sunlight and the steady movement of life. Let your breathing settle as you picture the quiet inside this home. Most evenings follow the same comforting pattern: finishing chores, preparing simple meals, sharing a moment with family, and easing into the night. There's something soothing in the predictability of it, something that gently anchors your thoughts. If your mind begins to wander, that's all right. Just return to the glow of the firelight in your imagination. This is your soft reminder to let go a little more, to relax your shoulders, and allow the story to wrap around you like a warm blanket. Now imagine the sounds of the home at night, not loud, not abrupt, but soft and familiar. A wooden spoon resting on a bowl, the faint knocking of a pot being moved aside, the rustle of fabric as someone tidies the room. These sounds are subtle, gentle, and they fade naturally into the deeper quiet of the evening. The air carries a mixture of scents, a hint of warm grain, wood smoke, and the clean night breeze drifting through small gaps in the walls. Everything feels grounded and real, shaped by the work of the day and the calm acceptance of nightfall. It's a world without bright lights or constant noise, where rest arrives slowly and naturally. Across the room, a low table holds remnants of an evening meal, perhaps bread, legumes, herbs, or a simple stew. Nothing extravagant, but nourishing and comforting, made from what the land can offer through the permission of the one who provides all sustenance. These meals weren't rushed, they were shared quietly, forming a gentle end to the day. As the fire settles into glowing embers, the room grows dimmer, but not in a way that feels lonely. Darkness here is soft, familiar, and welcomed. The shadows dance gently on the walls as if reminding everyone that night is simply another chapter in the daily rhythm. Nothing to resist, nothing to fear. Every few minutes, I'll remind you gently, if your eyes feel heavy, let them be heavy. You don't have to stay fully awake to absorb this story. You're allowed to drift, to float, to soften into the quiet of the medieval night. Outside, the village becomes hushed. Only the occasional sound of a distant animal or the wind through the trees breaks the silence. Homes sit close together, forming a small community where people depend on shared routines and familiar surroundings. Even through the stillness, there's a feeling of togetherness that fills the cool night air. Inside our imagined home, the arrangement of the space reflects a life shaped by necessity and care. Tools hang neatly on walls, blankets are folded near sleeping areas, and a small wooden chest might hold belongings that matter most. Simple items, yet valued deeply because of the effort required to make or obtain them. The night deepens, and with it comes a natural slowing of thought. Families prepare to rest, adjusting bedding made from straw, wool, or layered fabrics. Comfort is created through effort, blankets woven by hand, straw replaced regularly, warmth shared within the home. Every detail reflects patience and a grounded way of living. Allow yourself to match that slowing pace. Let each breath draw in calmness and release the weight of your day. This is your gentle reminder that the world can wait, and rest is an act of kindness toward yourself. Now the room grows almost completely still. Only the ember glow remains, flickering softly against the walls as everyone settles in. The night is not filled with tasks or screens or artificial brightness, just the quiet acceptance that it is time to close the chapter of the day and ease into rest. As the family settles deeper into the night, the home becomes quiet enough that even the smallest sounds feel amplified. A shift in straw bedding, the gentle creak of a wooden frame, or the faint whisper of someone adjusting their blanket becomes part of the room's soft nightly soundtrack. Nothing urgent calls for attention. The world outside fades into darkness, and the world inside narrows to the warmth and stillness of this simple living space. In a medieval night like this, sleep didn't arrive instantly. It drifted in slowly, encouraged by the natural dimness and the body's instinct to rest after a day of steady work. People would lie quietly, letting their thoughts settle just as the fire's embers settled into a deep red glow. There was no rush, no pressure to fall asleep at a specific time. Rest unfolded when it was ready. Let your breath follow that rhythm. Slow, unforced, steady. This is your gentle reminder that you can soften into the story, and your mind is free to drift wherever it needs to. In the stillness, you might imagine how the cool night air slipped through small gaps in the walls, not enough to disturb, but enough to remind the sleepers of the changing seasons. The warmth of blankets or layered clothing helped carry them through long nights. Homes relied on simple materials, yet through the blessing of the one who grants benefit through his creation, these materials provided the comfort needed to endure the cold. Nearby, tools and belongings rest exactly where they were left after the day's tasks. A woven basket filled with grains sits beside a wooden bench. A pair of worn shoes waits near the doorway, coated with dust from earlier chores. These objects tell quiet stories of effort, patience, and daily routine. Stories that remain silent but present in the stillness of the evening. As you picture these items in your mind, you might notice your own thoughts loosening, like knots slowly untying. Every soft detail, every quiet corner of this home, is an invitation to release tension. Allow yourself to lean into it, gently and naturally. The night stretches on, and the village outside grows completely silent. No carts rolling over dirt paths, no voices from neighboring homes, no echo of tools or animals. Just a deep, steady hush, as if the entire landscape has agreed to rest at the same time. Even the wind seems to move more slowly now. In this calm, the idea of safety becomes clearer. Medieval homes may have been simple, but their closeness and shared warmth created a feeling of protection. People gathered their families near, kept the fire bank low, and trusted the quiet routine of night. It's a sense of belonging and shelter that you might feel settling gently around you now, like a soft blanket being drawn closer. If your eyelids feel heavy, that's perfectly all right. This is your gentle reminder that you don't need to resist it. Let the heaviness be part of the experience. As the hours pass, the ember glow dims further, turning from a soft red to faint specks of warmth nestled under ash. The room becomes cooler and darker, but not uncomfortable, just naturally transitioning deeper into the night. The pace of everything slows to nearly nothing. Even breathing seems quieter in this space. You might imagine the family shifting occasionally, adjusting blankets or finding a more comfortable spot. These small movements are part of the natural rhythm of rest. Nothing abrupt, nothing disruptive. Just gentle readjustments as bodies sink into sleep. The faint scent of wood smoke lingers in the air, gradually fading but still familiar. It mixes with the earthy smell of the home, clay or timber walls, straw bedding, worn fabrics, and simple tools. These scents were not crafted or chosen for comfort. They were simply part of life, woven into daily experience as naturally as breathing. Outside, the moonlight brushes over rooftops and quiet pathways. Shadows stretch softly across the ground, and the contours of the village blur into peaceful, muted shapes. In the distance, maybe an animal stirs or the leaves shift on a tree, small reminders that the world continues even in stillness. Inside the home, sleep deepens. The quiet becomes full, almost velvety, wrapping around each resting person and carrying them toward the next morning. There is no urgency for dawn, no pressure from time. Just rest, supported by routine and the steady comfort of shared space. As we remain here a moment longer, let your body soften again. Feel your jaw loosen, your shoulders lower, your breathing slow. This is your gentle reminder that you don't have to hold on to anything right now. You can let your mind drift, even if only for a few seconds at a time. The medieval night continues quietly, without a dramatic ending or sudden shift. It simply exists, a chapter in a long chain of days shaped by simple living, steady routines, and the calm acceptance of nightfall. And as you float here in this soft, hushed moment, you're welcome to drift into your own rest whenever sleep decides to arrive, naturally and peacefully. As the family settles deeper into the night, the home becomes quiet enough that even the smallest sounds feel amplified. A shift in straw bedding, the gentle creak of a wooden frame, or the faint whisper of someone adjusting their blanket becomes part of the room's soft nightly soundtrack. Nothing urgent calls for attention. The world outside fades into darkness, and the world inside narrows to the warmth and stillness of this simple living space. In a medieval night like this, sleep didn't arrive instantly. It drifted in slowly, encouraged by the natural dimness and the body's instinct to rest after a day of steady work. People would lie quietly, letting their thoughts settle just as the fire's embers settled into a deep red glow. There was no rush, no pressure to fall asleep at a specific time. Rest unfolded when it was ready. Let your breath follow that rhythm. Slow, unforced, steady. This is your gentle reminder that you can soften into the story, and your mind is free to drift wherever it needs to. In the stillness, you might imagine how the cool night air slipped through small gaps in the walls, not enough to disturb, but enough to remind the sleepers of the changing seasons. The warmth of blankets or layered clothing helped carry them through long nights. Homes relied on simple materials, yet through the blessing of the one who grants benefit through his creation, these materials provided the comfort needed to endure the cold. Nearby, tools and belongings rest exactly where they were left after the day's tasks. A woven basket filled with grains sits beside a wooden bench. A pair of worn shoes waits near the doorway, coated with dust from earlier chores. These objects tell quiet stories of effort, patience, and daily routine. Stories that remain silent but present in the stillness of the evening. As you picture these items in your mind, you might notice your own thoughts loosening, like knots slowly untying. Every soft detail, every quiet corner of this home, is an invitation to release tension. Allow yourself to lean into it, gently and naturally. The night stretches on, and the village outside grows completely silent. No carts rolling over dirt paths, no voices from neighboring homes, no echo of tools or animals. Just a deep, steady hush, as if the entire landscape has agreed to rest at the same time. Even the wind seems to move more slowly now. In this calm, the idea of safety becomes clearer. Medieval homes may have been simple, but their closeness and shared warmth created a feeling of protection. People gathered their families near, kept the fire bank low, and trusted the quiet routine of night. It's a sense of belonging and shelter that you might feel settling gently around you now, like a soft blanket being drawn closer. If your eyelids feel heavy, that's perfectly all right. This is your gentle reminder that you don't need to resist it. Let the heaviness be part of the experience. As the hours pass, the ember glow dims further, turning from a soft red to faint specks of warmth nestled under ash. The room becomes cooler and darker, but not uncomfortable, just naturally transitioning deeper into the night. The pace of everything slows to nearly nothing. Even breathing seems quieter in this space. You might imagine the family shifting occasionally, adjusting blankets or finding a more comfortable spot. These small movements are part of the natural rhythm of rest. Nothing abrupt, nothing disruptive. Just gentle readjustments as bodies sink into sleep. The faint scent of wood smoke lingers in the air, gradually fading but still familiar. It mixes with the earthy smell of the home, clay or timber walls, straw bedding, worn fabrics, and simple tools. These scents were not crafted or chosen for comfort. They were simply part of life, woven into daily experience as naturally as breathing. Outside, the moonlight brushes over rooftops and quiet pathways. Shadows stretch softly across the ground, and the contours of the village blur into peaceful, muted shapes. In the distance, maybe an animal stirs, or the leaves shift on a tree, small reminders that the world continues even in stillness. Inside the home, sleep deepens. The quiet becomes full, almost velvety, wrapping around each resting person and carrying them toward the next morning. There is no urgency for dawn, no pressure from time. Just rest, supported by routine and the steady comfort of shared space. As we remain here a moment longer, let your body soften again. Feel your jaw loosen, your shoulders lower, your breathing slow. This is your gentle reminder that you don't have to hold on to anything right now. You can let your mind drift, even if only for a few seconds at a time. The medieval night continues quietly, without a dramatic ending or sudden shift. It simply exists, a chapter in a long chain of days shaped by simple living, steady routines, and the calm acceptance of nightfall. And as you float here in this soft, hushed moment, you're welcome to drift into your own rest whenever sleep decides to arrive, naturally and peacefully. The medieval night unfolded slowly, and sleep was less of a destination and more of a gentle drift shaped by darkness and quiet. In these homes, the approach to rest felt natural, unhurried, and deeply connected to the rhythm of daylight. Sleeping arrangements were simple but purposeful, shaped by practicality rather than luxury. A bed might begin with a wooden frame, topped with layers of straw carefully replaced when it grew old, and covered with blankets woven from wool. These materials provided comfort through the permission of the one who grants ease through creation. As the fire dimmed, the room embraced a softer silence, inviting minds to settle gradually rather than abruptly. Families often shared sleeping spaces, not only for warmth but for reassurance during long, cold nights. The closeness created a sense of stability, allowing younger members of the household to relax quickly as they listened to the quiet breathing around them. Privacy wasn't the goal, comfort and safety were. In winter, additional layers of fabric were added, and in summer, windows or openings were adjusted to let in a cooler breeze. Each season shaped the way people slept, creating patterns that repeated year after year until they became part of life's natural rhythm. Before settling into sleep, households moved through soft rituals that marked the end of the day. Bedding was shaken lightly, embers were pushed safely aside, and tools or belongings were arranged neatly so that morning would begin smoothly. These final tasks were not rushed. Instead, they acted like stepping stones between the activity of the day and the quiet of the night. As the last sounds faded, the room shifted into a peaceful stillness where even small movements felt intentional and gentle. If your breathing slows as you imagine this, let it slow. This is a soft reminder that you're allowed to follow the rhythm of the scene, taking in only what feels soothing and letting the rest drift past like a calm breeze moving through a doorway. In the dim glow of ember light, textures became more noticeable. Straw bedding rustled softly whenever someone shifted. The wooden floor cooled gradually as the night deepened. Blankets carried the faint smell of wool, and clothing hung nearby released a subtle earthy scent. These details created an atmosphere grounded in nature, reminding families that their rest was connected to the world around them. Even in silence, the room felt alive with warmth gathered during the day. Many homes placed sleeping areas in corners that felt protected, often near walls that helped block wind or cold. Parents slept closest to the light source, ready to tend to the fire if needed, while others arranged themselves around the room according to age or comfort. This wasn't rigid or strict. It was a layout that made sense for their routines and needs. A quiet rearrangement might take place once in a while, guided by weather or personal preference. As bodies settled, the darkness grew heavier, turning the room into a cocoon of rest. Without bright lamps or artificial sounds, night offered a depth of quiet that modern life rarely provides. This quiet wasn't empty. It felt like a blanket of calm, encouraging thoughts to dissolve one by one. The slower pace made it easier for fatigue to rise gently, letting sleep take hold without resistance or rush. Occasionally, a faint sound outside might echo through the night, the call of an animal, the soft sway of branches, or the distant steps of someone finishing late chores. But these sounds blended into the stillness, becoming part of the environment rather than breaking it. Families were accustomed to them and took comfort in the familiarity of each small noise. As you imagine this environment, take another slow breath. Let your shoulders lower slightly. This is another gentle reminder to release any tension you don't need to hold right now. Just like the medieval sleepers settling into their straw bedding, you can allow your body to find a more comfortable place. In homes where several generations lived together, nighttime brought a unique feeling of unity. Babies might rest in makeshift cradles near their parents, while elders found the warmest corner of the room. The presence of loved ones provided reassurance, a sense that no one faced the long night alone. This connection offered emotional comfort as much as physical, reinforcing bonds that held families together through seasons and challenges. Moonlight sometimes slipped through small openings in the walls or shutter gaps, creating faint patterns on the floor. These delicate shapes moved slowly with the shifting sky, offering a quiet reminder of time passing. The glow wasn't strong enough to disturb sleep, but it added a soft rhythm to the night, almost like a natural clock that marked the slow turning of hours. The bedding itself reflected the effort put into making a home functional and warm. Straw had to be collected, dried, and replaced regularly. Wool blankets required time to weave and mend. Nothing was disposable, and everything was handled with care. Even in this simplicity, there was a kind of comfort, not from abundance, but from gratitude for what was available through the blessings given to them. Those who woke briefly during the night might listen to the quiet breathing of their family members or the fading crackle of cooling embers. These moments weren't unsettling. Instead, they offered a calm pause, a reminder that rest continued around them. After shifting positions or pulling a blanket closer, they eased back into sleep with little difficulty. As the night deepened, the home reached its quietest point. Thoughts slowed naturally as the world outside dimmed further, creating a perfect environment for rest. If your mind feels calmer imagining this, allow the calm to stay with you. Let each breath become a little slower, a little easier. By the final stretch of night, the darkness held steady, and the home felt suspended in peaceful stillness. Sleep was not forced, controlled, or managed. It simply happened, supported by routine, comfort, and the slow unwinding of a long day. The medieval night held people gently, guiding them toward morning in its own steady way. As midnight settled in quiet layers, the home grew even more peaceful. The fire had faded to a memory of warmth, leaving behind a gentle smell of cooled wood and ash. The darkness became thicker, but not oppressive. It wrapped around the room like a natural shelter. Those who stirred briefly felt the cool air brushing their faces, reminding them of the season outside. A soft shift in the bedding might follow, a quiet pull of a blanket to regain warmth, and sleep would return without effort. The rhythm of the night continued unbroken, a slow drift that carried each person through long, still hours. If someone awoke fully, they usually remained calm. There were no bright lights to shock the senses, no distractions demanding attention. Instead, the darkness encouraged a soft inward focus. The mind wandered gently, tracing memories from the day or imagining tasks for tomorrow. These thoughts remained soft and unfocused, like ripples spreading across a quiet pond. Before long, the stillness of the room guided them back down into rest. This natural cycle of waking and returning to sleep felt normal, unproblematic, and even soothing. Take a moment to let your breathing match this pace. Slow in, slow out. This is your gentle reminder that you can lean into the calmness as deeply as you wish, allowing the weight of your body to settle naturally. In the farthest corner of the room, older members of the household might rest more lightly, accustomed to waking at intervals through the night. They listened to the room's subtle cues, a creak in the wood, a quiet sigh, or the soft rustle of blankets. These sounds were familiar companions rather than disturbances. When the cold grew sharper, an elder might rise just long enough to shift the embers, coaxing a new glow of warmth before returning to bed. This wasn't seen as a chore but as a small act of care for the household. Children often slept the deepest. Their breathing formed a slow, steady rhythm that helped others relax. The warmth of shared space offered comfort, especially in the colder months when every bit of heat mattered. The air inside the room held a mix of scents from the day: bread, herbs, wool, smoke, but by midnight, these smells softened into a gentle blend that signaled safety and rest. For the younger ones, dreams drifted easily through the quiet night, shaped by the soft sounds and familiar warmth around them. The outdoor world continued its quiet existence beyond the home's walls. A breeze might pass through the trees, or a distant animal might call out briefly, but these sounds were distant, softened by the thick nighttime air. Far from being alarming, they simply reminded sleepers of the land they lived with, a land that held its own rhythms of rest and movement. Nature and home blended seamlessly, each shaping the other in ways that felt balanced and steady. As your mind imagines these moments, allow your shoulders to drop slightly. Here is another gentle reminder: you are not required to stay alert. Let your focus drift whenever it wants to. The story will stay soft enough to hold you even if you drift in and out. Toward the last hours of the night, the room entered its deepest stillness. Every person had settled into a position of comfort, and even small movements became rare. The air cooled further, and blankets became a source of quiet gratitude, appreciated for the warmth granted through the permission of the one who provides comfort through his creation. The slow exhalations of each sleeping person blended into a calm background rhythm. The bed frames, though simple, held their sleepers with a kind of dependable sturdiness. A small creak here and there did little more than remind the room of its own age and character. The straw beneath the blankets formed a familiar support, shaped over time by each person's nightly movements. Even with its imperfections, it offered a sense of grounding that helped the mind settle. Dreams, when they came, tended to follow the patterns of daily life: fields, tools, animals, weather, or tasks waiting in the next sunrise. These dreams did not overwhelm or disturb. They simply reflected the quiet simplicity of medieval living. The boundary between waking thought and dreaming softened during the night, allowing minds to drift through gentle transitions. Sometimes a faint glow of moonlight found its way through small cracks or shutter gaps, creating pale streaks across the floor. These faint patches of light shifted slowly as the night moved, marking the passing of time without urgency. They offered a soft visual companion to the quiet breathing in the room, adding calm movement to an otherwise motionless night. In households with pets or animals kept indoors for warmth, an occasional sound might break the silence: a soft shuffle, a brief stretch, or the quiet sigh of a resting creature. These small noises were familiar and comforting, part of the nightly routine. Instead of disturbing sleep, they added life to the stillness, reminding the sleepers of companionship within their walls. As the night neared its end, the chill grew sharper, and the hope for morning warmth felt close. But even in this cooler air, sleep remained unbroken for most. The body adjusted naturally, curling inward or drawing blankets higher. Moments like these reinforced resilience, shaped by a life lived close to nature's cycles. Before the first hints of dawn, the home stood in its deepest quiet. The world seemed to pause here, balanced between night and morning. Inside, rest held steady, cradling each person in the final stretch of sleep. This pause, this slow lingering in darkness, carried a gentle serenity. And as we leave this scene, let your breath soften once more. This final gentle reminder invites you to release any remaining tension, letting the medieval night settle around you like a comforting hush, guiding you toward rest at your own quiet pace. As evening settled into the medieval home, the kitchen became the heart of quiet routine. The day's final tasks unfolded slowly, shaped by habit rather than haste. A small fire, tended carefully throughout the afternoon, now glowed with a steady warmth that invited everyone closer. Pots hung nearby, their surfaces darkened from years of use, carrying the comforting scent of herbs and grain. Meals in this world were simple, yet each ingredient held value because it came from effort: seeds planted, crops tended, and food harvested through the permission of the one who allows the land to nurture life. The soothing sounds of chopping, stirring, and gentle boiling filled the room with a soft, familiar rhythm. Most households relied heavily on ingredients available seasonally or stored with care. Grains were ground into meal, vegetables sliced into stews, and legumes simmered slowly to create warmth that lingered long after eating. Bread, often prepared earlier in the day, sat cooling near the edge of the table. It carried the distinct scent of baked grain, earthy and calming. Nothing was wasted, and every piece of food was appreciated for the sustenance it provided. Families knew the effort behind each bite, which made the meal feel meaningful even without luxury. As the pot simmered, the room grew comfortably warm. The fire crackled softly beneath the cooking vessel, sending occasional sparks upward. These sparks danced briefly before fading, leaving behind only the glow of the coals. The air held a mixture of scents, herbs, wood smoke, and the natural aroma of the ingredients themselves. These smells didn't overwhelm. They blended gently, creating an atmosphere that signaled to everyone that the day was winding down. You might feel your own thoughts mirror this, slowing naturally with the scene. Sometimes, a family member would adjust the fire, shifting pieces of wood to ensure the meal cooked evenly. The scraping of a stick against charred logs created a low sound that blended with the crackle of burning wood. Tools were simple, often hand-carved or passed down through generations. Their imperfections showed years of use, but they performed their tasks reliably. Everything in the kitchen, from pot to spoon, carried the imprint of many evenings like this one. If your breathing softens as you picture this, let it soften easily. Here's your gentle reminder to loosen any tightness in your shoulders or jaw. The scene invites you to slow down just a little more. The medieval kitchen wasn't a large space. It might have been part of the main living area or a corner set aside specifically for cooking. Shelves held bundles of dried herbs, woven baskets stored grains or beans, and clay jars protected ingredients from pests. Every item had a place and purpose, arranged to make evening tasks flow smoothly. Even in its simplicity, the space felt deeply lived in, shaped by countless meals prepared with patience. Meals usually took longer to cook than to eat. This slow preparation allowed families time to unwind, share quiet thoughts, or simply rest near the warmth of the fire. Children might sit nearby, watching the steam rise from the pot and imagining what flavor the meal would bring. Adults might use the time to repair tools, mend clothing, or reflect silently on the day's work. The atmosphere wasn't rushed. It felt balanced, comforting, and steady. The soundscape of the kitchen added to this calm. Wooden spoons tapped lightly against clay or metal pots. The bubbling stew created a soft rhythm beneath the crackling fire. Occasionally, someone would set down a bowl or shift a stool, producing gentle thuds that blended naturally into the room's quiet music. These sounds offered a kind of grounding, reminding everyone of the stability found in routine. As your mind drifts through these details, take another slow breath. This is your soft reminder that you don't need to stay fully focused. Let the imagery float in and out as your body relaxes. Families ate what was available, and meals changed with the seasons. In warmer months, fresh vegetables and herbs brightened dishes. In colder months, dried or stored foods created heartier flavors. The household adapted without complaint, guided by nature's cycles and the labor of their own hands. Even simple meals brought comfort, warming both body and spirit after long hours of work. Sitting around the table, people often ate quietly. Conversation wasn't absent, but it was soft and unhurried. The clink of wooden utensils and the gentle passing of bowls filled the space. There was no rush to finish, no distractions pulling attention away. Eating was not only sustenance, it was a peaceful moment in the day when everyone could slow their pace. The fire's glow reached across the room, illuminating worn wooden surfaces and casting long shadows against the walls. Light flickered gently across baskets, tools, and shelves, making the kitchen feel alive even in its stillness. For many families, this was the most comforting time of day, when warmth, food, and quiet company came together. The meal itself might be served in simple bowls. Stew ladled carefully, bread broken into pieces, herbs sprinkled lightly if available. Every action was deliberate and steady. The first bite brought warmth that spread gradually through tired bodies, easing muscles and marking the shift from activity to rest. This warmth often lingered long after the meal ended, helping everyone ease into the night. Outside, evening deepened further. The sounds of the village faded as people finished their chores and gathered their families indoors. The kitchen, now filled with soft light and gentle movement, became a barrier against the cool air beyond the walls. Step by step, the transition into nighttime felt seamless. As you picture this scene, you might notice your own breathing aligning with its quiet rhythm. Another gentle reminder, you're welcome to let go a little more, letting the calm settle into your chest and shoulders. The final moments before eating often held a subtle pleasure, the anticipation of warmth, the soft glow of the fire, the shared stillness of the room. These small moments, repeated night after night, formed the heart of medieval evening life. They taught patience, gratitude, and contentment with what was available through the blessings granted to them. After the first few bites, a deep sense of comfort began to settle through the room. The warmth of the stew or bread spread slowly through tired muscles, easing the strain of a long day. Eating wasn't hurried. Each spoonful, each small pause, allowed the body to relax layer by layer. The soft firelight helped shape the atmosphere, lowering the pace of thought and bringing everyone into the same quiet rhythm. This wasn't a moment of celebration or noise. It was a quiet, grounding pause in the daily cycle, something familiar and deeply reassuring. As the meal continued, the kitchen filled with a gentle symphony of sounds. Wooden spoons tapping lightly against bowls, the soft exhale of someone enjoying the warmth, the hush of fabric shifting as people adjusted their seats. These sounds created a steady pattern, one that made the kitchen feel alive yet calm. There was no rush to finish. People ate until they felt satisfied, appreciating the simple nourishment provided through the permission and generosity of the one who allows food to bring benefit. When the bowls began to empty, the fire still glowed warmly, keeping the kitchen lit with a soft orange tone. Shadows flickered across the walls, moving in gentle waves that mirrored the fire's breath. Someone might rise quietly to refill a bowl or bring an additional piece of bread, each movement unobtrusive and unhurried. The slow rhythm of the evening wrapped the household in comfort, as if the home itself exhaled along with the people inside it. Here's a gentle reminder for you as well. Breathe a little deeper. Let the warm imagery of the room help you settle. You don't need to focus sharply, just drift with the scene at your own pace. Once the meal was finished, the process of cleaning began, but even this unfolded with a softness that matched the rest of the evening. Bowls were rinsed near stored water, carefully wiped, and placed back in their usual spots. Leftover scraps were collected for animals or composted into the earth. Nothing was wasted. The quiet movements of cleaning blended seamlessly with the fading crackle of the fire. The kitchen gradually shifted from the lively warmth of cooking and eating to a more subdued tone. Pots cooled on the side table, spoons dried beside shallow bowls, and herbs hanging from the rafters swayed ever so slightly when someone passed by. Every object seemed to settle into a comfortable stillness, mirroring the people who moved gently through the room. As you imagine this calmness, allow your own thoughts to slow again. This is your soft reminder that you can let the tension drain from your face, your hands, your shoulders. The imagery is meant to help you rest. Families sometimes spent a little more time near the fire after the meal, sharing quiet conversation or preparing small tasks for the next morning. Perhaps grain was measured for the next day's bread, or tools were checked to ensure they were ready for work. These acts were simple, steady, and unhurried, gentle bridges between activity and rest. Outside, the deeper night had begun to settle over the village. The last traces of daylight faded fully, leaving behind only the glow of cooking fires and lanterns in nearby homes. The kitchen, now dimmer as the fire sank lower, felt more intimate. The air cooled slightly, and blankets or cloaks were brought closer to keep the warmth gathered through the evening. The fire eventually shrank to glowing embers. Its warmth remained, but the bright flames withdrew, allowing the room to transition into the final stage of the night. The glow illuminated only a small circle now, just enough to guide a few last tasks before everyone retired to their sleeping spaces. In this dimness, the home felt gentler, almost like it was preparing to rest as well. For a moment, picture the quiet of this nearly dark kitchen, the still bowls, the faint scent of herbs, the soft glow of embers. This is your gentle anchor, a reminder that calmness doesn't have to be forced. It rises naturally when everything slows down. When the last tasks were completed, the family stepped away from the kitchen, leaving the tools and ingredients ready for another day. The silence that followed felt peaceful, not empty. It signaled the shift from wakefulness to rest, from routine to the slower world of nighttime. As they moved toward their sleeping areas, the warmth from the evening meal lingered in their bodies, making the transition into rest smoother. The kitchen, now empty and still, held the memory of quiet work, steady movement, and the shared comfort of a simple meal. And as you drift with this scene, allow the softness of it to settle over you like a blanket, letting the steady rhythm of medieval evening life guide your mind toward rest, just as the fading fire guided the household into the quiet hours of the night. In the medieval home, each day unfolded like a gentle sequence of familiar tasks, shaped not by rigid schedules but by sunlight, weather, and necessity. Daily chores weren't rushed events. They were woven into life with a quiet predictability that brought stability and rhythm. People began their mornings with simple responsibilities: fetching water, tending animals, or checking stored supplies, each action performed with patience. Though these tasks required effort, they also offered moments of reflection, grounding the household in a calm routine that brought comfort through repetition. Fetching water was one of the most essential and frequent chores. A person might walk to a nearby well or stream, carrying a sturdy container crafted from wood or clay. The journey, often taken multiple times a day, became a natural pause in the rhythm of work. The sound of water filling the vessel, the cool air near the well, and the steady walk home were all familiar parts of daily life. These tasks, though simple, held deep purpose, supported by the permission of the one who provides benefit through natural resources. Tending animals was another routine that shaped the day. Chickens, goats, or cattle needed feeding, cleaning, or guiding to small grazing areas. Their movements and sounds formed part of the household soundtrack: a soft clucking, the shuffle of hooves, or the quiet rustle of straw. These animals weren't merely possessions. They contributed to the household's survival through milk, eggs, or labor. Caring for them created a steady bond built through daily attention. If your breath slows as you imagine these moments, allow it to slow naturally. Here's a gentle reminder to ease your shoulders and settle a little deeper into the calm. Inside the home, tasks such as sweeping, organizing tools, and tidying bedding filled the morning hours. The materials were simple: bundles of straw used as brooms, woven cloths for cleaning, but they kept the home comfortable and functional. Dust and debris were swept toward the door, letting the home breathe more easily. These small actions, repeated day after day, offered a sense of control and calm over the living space. Grinding grain was another regular chore, often performed with a handheld stone mill. The rhythmic rolling of stone on grain created a steady, soothing sound that echoed softly through the room. It required patience and strength, yet many people found comfort in the repetitive motion. Grain transformed slowly into meal, ready to become bread or porridge later in the day. Preparing tools for work formed its own quiet ritual. Wooden handles were checked for cracks, blades were cleaned, and ropes were inspected. Tools were precious and often handmade, so maintaining them was essential. These small checks helped prevent problems later and made the day's work smoother. The act of preparation itself encouraged a mindful, measured start to the morning. Outside, the land called for attention, whether tending small gardens, mending fences, or checking stored wood. Each task reflected the season's needs. Spring brought planting, summer brought care, autumn brought harvest, and winter brought preservation and repair. The cycle was constant yet comforting, a steady pattern repeating year after year. Take another slow breath. This is your gentle reminder that you, too, can follow a calmer rhythm as you listen. Inside the home, chores often overlapped with quiet conversation or shared moments. Family members worked side by side, each contributing in small but meaningful ways. A child might help carry wood, while an adult organized supplies or repaired a simple item. No role was too small. Every action supported the harmony of the household. Cleaning and folding clothing required careful effort. Garments were washed with water that had been heated over the fire, then scrubbed gently using natural materials. After drying in the sun, they were folded and placed neatly on shelves or in wooden chests. Clothing was valued and maintained with intention, since replacing it required time, skill, and materials. Maintaining the fire was another essential routine. Someone ensured that fresh wood was added throughout the day so the home stayed warm and ready for cooking. The process was simple but constant, adjusting logs, clearing ash, and protecting the flame from drafts. This gentle dance with the fire became second nature to those who tended it. During midday, the rhythm of tasks slowed slightly as people paused for a small meal or rest. Even this break followed a familiar pattern: simple food, shared in quiet, before easing back into afternoon work. The day didn't feel segmented by clocks. It flowed in a natural cycle, rising and settling like breath. As afternoon approached, chores took on a different tone. Tools used earlier were cleaned and stored. Wood was gathered for the evening. Animals were checked again. Every task served to prepare the home for nightfall, ensuring comfort and readiness once the sun dipped low. Outside, the village often echoed with the soft sounds of others completing their routines: footsteps on dirt, distant voices, the clatter of tools, the bleating of animals making their way home. These sounds blended together in a quiet melody that signaled the approach of evening. And as the day began its gentle descent, the household eased into slower movements, preparing once again for the calm and familiar rhythm of night. As the afternoon light softened, many households turned their attention to tasks that strengthened the sense of order within the home. Tidying storage spaces, arranging tools for the next day, or checking preserved foods offered a quiet satisfaction. Clay jars were examined to ensure grains remained dry, baskets were reorganized, and herbs hung near the ceiling were inspected for freshness. These small checks, though subtle, played a crucial role in maintaining stability. A well-kept home meant fewer surprises, fewer difficulties, and a smoother rhythm for the family. Outdoor chores continued with a similar calmness. Fences might be mended where time or weather had caused wear, and pathways were cleared of sticks or loose stones. Larger tools used in the morning were rinsed and placed under shelter to protect them from moisture. These actions weren't grand efforts. They were gentle acts of stewardship over the land and belongings granted to the family through the mercy and permission of the one who provides all ease. Take a soft breath as you picture these simple motions. This is your gentle reminder that life can feel calmer when routines move slowly and predictably. As the sun drifted lower, water often needed to be fetched once more. The walk to the well or stream felt different in the late afternoon, quiet, cooler, and touched by golden light. Shadows stretched long across the ground, and the air grew still. The sound of water filling a wooden container echoed softly, adding a peaceful note to the moment. The return walk offered a sense of closure, as if the day itself was bowing into evening. Inside the home, simple repairs filled the late hours of daylight. A loose strap on a tool might be tightened, a small crack in a pot patched with care, or a woven basket reinforced with fresh fibers. These repairs weren't rushed. They were done with patience, often accompanied by the soft flicker of afternoon light across the workspace. Every improvement, no matter how small, strengthened the household's resilience. Children, too, played a role in these routines. They might gather kindling, help sort vegetables, or carry folded cloth to the sleeping areas. Their tasks were small but meaningful, gradually teaching them the rhythm of home life. Their presence brought soft energy into the room, curiosity, small questions, and moments of wonder woven between chores. If your breathing slows while picturing the scene, let it slow without effort. This is another gentle reminder that you can relax deeper into the calm. As evening approached, animals were brought back to their shelters. The soft clatter of hooves or gentle bleating marked the transition toward night. Fresh straw was spread, water refilled, and gates secured. For many families, these final outdoor tasks were moments of connection with the animals that supported their livelihood. These small interactions created a sense of harmony between the household and the land. Returning indoors, the shift from afternoon to evening felt seamless. The home darkened slowly, lit by the warm glow of the cooking fire. Tools rested where they belonged, baskets were filled or emptied as needed, and the floor was swept one final time. This moment, when the household paused between activity and rest, carried a unique peace. Preparing the fire for the night became an important ritual. Wood was arranged so it would burn steadily through the evening, and embers were encouraged to glow rather than flame. The gentle crackling signaled the beginning of the night's quiet hours. With the fire secured, the home felt ready, comfortable, warm, and sheltered. The air inside the home shifted as the day faded fully. The lingering sense of herbs, wood, and earth blended together, forming a subtle warmth beneath the cooling night air. Everything felt slower now, as if time itself had softened. The household moved with ease, knowing the most demanding tasks were behind them. As you follow this rhythm, take one more slow breath. Let your mind drift at its own pace while the scene settles gently around you. In the final stretch of daylight, the family completed any remaining small tasks, folding cloth, checking stored food, or preparing grains for the next day. These tasks didn't require deep focus. They encouraged a gradual unwinding. With each motion, the weight of the day lifted a little more. By the time darkness settled outside, the predictable routine of chores had created a steady foundation for the night. Inside the home, calmness filled every corner. Tools rested, the fire glowed, and the living space held the peaceful satisfaction that comes only from a well-tended day. And as the household eased into their nighttime rituals, the soft rhythm of medieval daily life guided them gently toward rest, steady, familiar, and comforting in its quiet predictability. Clothing in the medieval world was more than fabric. It was a layer of protection, a quiet companion through shifting seasons and long days of work. Each garment carried the mark of patient hands that spun, wove, and stitched it into existence. Wool was especially valued, holding warmth through the permission of the one who grants benefit through his creation. Linen offered comfort against the skin during warmer days. Together, these materials formed the foundation of everyday clothing, shaping how people moved, worked, and rested. In the gentle glow of evening, garments hung from pegs or lay folded neatly, ready to provide comfort once more. Most households made their clothing with care, often beginning with raw fibers gathered from sheep or flax plants. Preparing these fibers took time. Cleaning, carding, spinning, and weaving each required steady attention. The sound of a spinning wheel or the soft thump of a loom became familiar background noise in many homes. Clothing wasn't replaced often, so each piece was mended frequently. Patches were sewn with precision, seams reinforced when they weakened, and edges repaired as they frayed. Every stitch extended the life of the garment. As you picture this slow craftsmanship, let your breathing mirror that pace. Here's a gentle reminder to relax your jaw, your shoulders, and your hands, easing into the calm of the scene. Layers were essential for warmth. In colder seasons, people wore multiple garments, tunics, cloaks, hoods, and sometimes thick outer wraps that shielded them from wind and night air. These layers trapped heat close to the body, offering comfort during long hours outdoors. In warmer seasons, the layers shifted to lighter fabrics, allowing the body to stay cool without sacrificing protection. People learned to adjust their clothing intuitively, listening to the weather and choosing what the day required. Footwear, too, played an important role. Simple leather shoes or boots protected the feet during walks across uneven ground. They were rarely perfect, sometimes stiff, sometimes worn, but they carried people through fields, forests, and daily chores. When shoes grew thin, they were repaired carefully with new soles or reinforced stitching. This steady cycle of use and repair made them feel familiar, mold to the shape of each person's steps. Inside the home, clothing served as part of the nightly rhythm. Outer garments were set aside, while softer layers were kept on to preserve warmth. The home's warmth came mostly from the fire, so garments acted as a portable shield against the cold. Blankets, woven with thick wool, added another layer of comfort. These blankets were treasured, often passed down and renewed through patching when needed. Take another soft breath. Let the warmth of these imagined layers settle gently into your thoughts. Storage for clothing was simple but intentional. Wooden chests, woven baskets, or shelves kept garments dry and protected. A cloak folded carefully after use retained its shape longer. A tunic hung near the fire dried more quickly after washing. People understood their materials well, knowing how to keep them in good condition. This attentiveness wasn't fussy, it was practical, a quiet stewardship over items that required effort to create. Scarves and hoods provided additional warmth, especially during long walks or tasks done outdoors. Made from wool or thick cloth, these accessories wrapped around the neck and head, shielding against wind or morning chill. Their warmth was a comfort, especially during seasonal transitions when days shifted unpredictably between cold and mild. Color in clothing depended on what dyes were available. Earthy tones, browns, greens, muted reds, came from natural sources like plants and roots. These colors blended beautifully with the landscape, creating harmonies between clothing and the world outside. Nothing felt out of place. Everything mirrored the land and the materials it offered. If your mind feels slower as you imagine these textures, allow it to continue slowing. Here's another gentle reminder that you don't need to hold on to anything tightly right now. During washing days, garments were soaked, scrubbed, and rinsed with water carried from the well. Heated water helped loosen dirt, while natural materials, ashes or certain plants, provided mild cleaning properties. After washing, clothes were laid out to dry under sunlight or hung near the fire if weather required it. The scent of clean fabric mixed with fresh air added a soft brightness to the home. The process of folding or storing clean garments became its own calming ritual. Each piece was smoothed gently, examined for wear, and placed neatly in its chosen space. These moments helped maintain order in the home and offered quiet satisfaction. Clothing was not abundant, so each garment held meaning and was treated with respect. Children's clothing followed the same principles: simple, durable, and easy to mend. Their garments were often hammer-downs, adjusted with new stitching as they grew. Each alteration reflected the passage of time, marking growth through careful craftsmanship rather than waste. As the day shifted into evening, people often added extra layers to prepare for the night's cooler temperatures. Clothing became part of the nightly transition, just as important as dimming the fire or finishing chores. This small act signaled the body to slow down, to prepare for rest, and to accept the quiet of the upcoming hours. In the soft glow of the firelight, the textures of wool and linen took on a warm, inviting appearance. Folds cast gentle shadows, and the slight movement of fabric responded to each footstep in the room. Clothing, though humble, added to the comfort of home life, grounding people in familiar sensations that helped ease the mind into calmness. And as evening deepened, the layers of fabric, the warmth they held, and the care woven into every stitch became part of the household's quiet rhythm, a simple, steady comfort at the end of another long medieval day. As the evening wore on, warm clothing became essential. The fire slowly lost its strength, and the home cooled in quiet stages. People added cloaks or thicker wool layers, adjusting their garments with small, practiced motions. These layers acted like portable warmth, helping families stay comfortable while completing the last tasks of the day. The sound of fabric shifting, soft, muted, familiar, mingled with the gentle settling of the room. Nothing felt rushed. Each movement matched the slow rhythm of the night. When the fire sank into embers, shawls or wraps became even more important. They draped over shoulders and laps, offering insulation through the permission of the one who grants warmth through creation. Families often sat together, sharing the heat that lingered in the room. This closeness wasn't only practical, it brought a quiet reassurance, a reminder that comfort could be found in both fabric and companionship. The glow of embers highlighted the edges of garments, turning wool and linen into soft shapes against the dark. Here's a gentle reminder: if your breathing settles into a slower pattern, you can follow it. Let the calmness rise naturally. Nighttime routines relied on these warm layers. Before resting, people adjusted their garments so they would sleep comfortably. sometimes wrapping a cloak or blanket tightly to shield against the cool drafts common in medieval homes. The bedding itself, straw, wool, or layered cloth, worked together with clothing to create warmth. These small adjustments signaled the mind and body that the day was ending, mirroring the settling of the fire. During colder seasons, extra garments were kept close. A folded cloak might rest at the edge of the bed, ready to be pulled over sleepy shoulders if the night grew colder. This small precaution made waking at night less jarring. Instead of rising to adjust the fire immediately, a person could simply pull an additional layer closer, allowing sleep to return easily. Clothing also reflected the environment. In coastal areas, humidity or wind shaped the kinds of garments worn. In forested regions, thicker cloaks protected against cool shadows that lingered beneath tall trees. In open farmland, lighter layers allowed freedom of movement during long days outdoors. Each region passed down its own quiet wisdom through clothing choices, formed by generations who learned to adapt gently to their surroundings. As you picture these adaptations, let your mind rest against the steady rhythm of the scene. This is another soft reminder that tranquility often comes from simplicity. Accessories like belts or pouches were part of everyday clothing, helping people carry small items needed throughout the day. At night, these were loosened or removed, placed neatly near sleeping spaces. Even this small gesture offered relief, an unburdening that made the body feel lighter and more ready for rest. Garments used for hard labor were set aside in the evening, allowing people to slip into softer layers. This transition marked a shift not only in comfort but in mindset. The heavy tasks of the day were finished, and the next hours belonged to rest and quiet. Clothing played a subtle yet meaningful role in this shift, bridging the movement from work to calm. Families often prepared clothing for the next morning before resting. A cloak might be hung near the door, ready for the chill of dawn. A child's garment might be placed carefully where they could reach it without stumbling in the dim light. These small preparations made mornings smoother, reducing effort when the day began anew. Inside the home, the faint rustle of fabric filled the quiet. Cloaks brushed against walls, blankets whispered as they were unfolded, and soft footsteps moved across the room. These sounds blended into the background, forming a gentle lullaby that encouraged sleepiness, even before anyone lay down. As the hour grew later, the layers of warmth felt increasingly comforting. The cloak wrapped across a back, the blanket tucked near a chin, the hood pulled loosely around the head. All these small adjustments added up to a sense of shelter. Wrapped in these layers, people were ready to let the day fade into the softness of night. And as the home finally grew still, the clothing that had supported the day's work transformed into quiet guardians of comfort. Warmth held gently close to the body, familiar textures surrounded tired limbs, and the peaceful rhythm of medieval night prepared each person for rest, steady, simple, and deeply calming. Community life in the medieval world moved at a gentle, steady pace, shaped by the closeness of families and neighbors who relied on one another. Villages were small enough that every person's footsteps were familiar, and daily routines often unfolded within shared spaces. The sound of distant conversation, the slow passing of carts, and the soft laughter of children blended into the comforting hum of village life. These shared environments offered both warmth and safety, creating a sense of belonging that eased the difficulties of everyday work. Gatherings weren't grand events, they formed naturally throughout the day. A few people might meet near a well, exchanging news while filling their water containers. Others paused along narrow paths, discussing weather or harvests. These conversations, though simple, stitched the community together. They reminded each person that their life connected with the lives of others, forming a network of support that strengthened the village. Such interactions carried no urgency, only steady companionship. As you imagine these scenes, allow your breath to settle softly. This is your gentle reminder that slowing down is part of the experience. Shared work often deepened these bonds. Neighbors might help repair a roof, gather crops, or mend fences, moving together in a rhythm shaped by cooperation. Each person understood that offering a hand today meant receiving one tomorrow. The quiet teamwork brought comfort, turning heavy tasks into manageable moments. Even without spoken plans, People seemed to know when help was needed, guided by attentiveness and familiarity. Market days brought more activity, but even they unfolded calmly. Villagers carried baskets of vegetables, grains, or crafted items to a central area, creating a soft chorus of footsteps and conversation. Goods exchanged hands with gratitude. People admired each other's work, asked about families, and shared gentle smiles. The atmosphere wasn't rushed. It felt like an extension of the village's heartbeat, steady and warm. Inside homes, small gatherings took place during evenings. Neighbors might visit briefly to share a story or borrow a tool. These moments were simple, yet their warmth lingered. A shared bowl of stew, a quiet conversation near the fire, or a few minutes of company after a long day brought comfort. These interactions strengthened trust and eased loneliness. Take another breath, letting your shoulders loosen. Let the softness of the scene guide your thoughts. Children naturally created their own gatherings. They played simple games near the edges of fields or followed adults during chores, absorbing the flow of community life. Their laughter added brightness to the village, a sound that reassured adults that life continued with gentle hope. Even though children had small chores of their own, their world still held space for fun and curiosity. Seasonal work often brought people together in larger numbers. Harvest time, planting days, or preparing firewood for winter turned into silent partnerships between households. Tools clinked, footsteps shuffled through fields, and voices wove through the air. These moments weren't only about labor, they were about shared purpose, a rhythm that carried everyone toward the same goals. As evening approached, households often gathered near doorways or pathways, enjoying cooler air and exchanging quiet words. The sky slowly darkened, and lantern light appeared from neighboring homes. This transition from day to night carried a sense of peaceful closure. Community members acknowledged each other with nods or soft greetings before returning indoors. If your breath has slowed, let it slow further. This is another gentle reminder to rest into the calmness. Community support extended into moments of difficulty. When a family faced hardship, illness, poor harvest, or damage to their home, others stepped forward quietly. Someone might bring food, help repair a wall, or gather wood for their fire. These acts weren't grand gestures. They were reflections of mutual care, a natural response shaped by shared life. Villagers also shared tools and knowledge. A person skilled in woodworking offered help to those less experienced. Someone who knew the best ways to preserve food taught others. These exchanges didn't feel like lessons. They felt like gifts of time and wisdom, strengthening the bonds that held the community together. Paths through the village acted as social threads. As people walked from one place to another, they naturally paused to talk, check on neighbors, or offer help. These pauses made the village feel alive, a living network of connections that carried comfort through every corner. Near the end of the day, gatherings took on a softer tone. People lingered outside for a few extra moments, sharing final words before night settled. The fading light painted warm colors across rooftops, and the quiet murmur of conversations drifted gently across the village. As dusk deepened, the community felt united in stillness. The shared rhythm of work, conversation, and rest created a peaceful balance, guiding each household toward the calm of night. And as the last bits of daylight faded, the village grew quieter, holding onto the warmth of companionship that had woven through the day, steady, reassuring, and deeply comforting. As night settled deeper over the village, the traces of community life lingered softly in the air. Footsteps faded, conversations dimmed, and lanterns flickered behind shuttered windows. Even in the quiet, the presence of neighbors brought comfort. People knew that just beyond their walls were others ending their day in similar peaceful routines. This unspoken closeness wrapped the village in a shared sense of safety, like a warm thread connecting each household. Inside the homes, families often reflected on the day's interactions. A kind word from a neighbor, a shared task, or a small exchange of goods added texture to their memories. These moments weren't dramatic, but they held emotional weight. They reminded people that life wasn't lived alone. Community offered balance, support in difficult times and joy in simple ones. Even the briefest gathering left a lingering warmth that carried into the night. Take a soft breath as you imagine these quiet reflections. Here's your gentle reminder to let your mind drift without effort, settling into the calmness of the scene. Some evenings brought small gatherings outdoors, even after chores were finished. Families might sit near doorways, sharing soft conversation while enjoying the cool air. A distant murmur from another home created a sense of company without intrusion. Children, if still awake, rested beside parents or finished simple games as the last daylight slipped away. These small clusters of people created a peaceful rhythm, light voices, soft steps, and the occasional clink of a wooden cup. The village paths grew quieter with each passing moment. The soft glow of lanterns cast long shadows across the ground, tracing the familiar lines of worn footpaths. Even without words, the shared experience of winding down felt almost like a community ritual. People recognized that each household, in its own way, was preparing for rest. This collective shift encouraged the mind to slow, matching the pace of the evening. In some corners of the village, someone might play a simple tune on a handmade instrument. The sound, gentle, modest, and comforting, floated lightly through the cool air. It wasn't a performance, just a quiet expression of peace. Neighbors who heard it felt a soft kind of gratitude for the moment, appreciating the way small sounds could fill the night with warmth. As you picture this soft melody drifting between homes, let your breath settle deeper. This is another gentle reminder that you're allowed to soften your thoughts and release any lingering tension. Conversations that continued indoors often focused on small matters, plans for tomorrow, the day's simplest joys, or stories passed down quietly within the family. These exchanges helped people feel grounded, reminding them of the shared life that shaped their days. The soft glow of the fire illuminated calm faces, casting warm tones across the room. Outside, the moonlight spread a pale shimmer across rooftops and fields. Shadows shifted slowly with the breeze. Animals settled in their shelters, adding gentle rustles that blended into the soundscape of the night. The entire village felt embraced by a gentle hush, as if nature itself participated in the evening stillness. As the hour grew later, any remaining gatherings faded naturally. People slipped indoors, bringing with them the quiet comfort of shared connection. Doors closed softly, a final signal that the village had entered its resting phase. Lamps dimmed one by one until only faint glimmers remained. Inside, the lingering warmth of community life stayed with each household. Even in silence, the memory of shared work, small conversations, and quiet support continued to soothe the mind. These bonds, though simple, were strong, woven through countless days of cooperation and mutual care. As the final moments of the day passed, the village settled fully into stillness. The soft echo of companionship remained, guiding each person gently toward rest. In this calm, the world felt safe, familiar, and steady. And as the night deepened completely, community life rested alongside the people, quiet, unbroken, and comforting in its quiet presence, preparing them for another peaceful sunrise. Travel in the medieval world unfolded at a gentle pace. Most people moved on foot, letting the land and weather determine the rhythm of their journey. Paths through villages and countryside were familiar, worn by generations of footsteps. There was no rush, no expectation to cross long distances in a single day. Instead, movement felt natural and unhurried. People walked steadily, taking in the texture of the ground, the sounds of nature, and the soft breeze that shifted with the time of day. Travel wasn't just a way to reach a destination. It was part of the flow of life itself. Villagers often traveled short distances to fields, wells, markets, or neighboring homes. These walks became quiet companions to their routines, offering moments of reflection between tasks. The path to a field might lead past tall grass swaying gently, while the walk to the well carried the soft echoes of water and the distant hum of village life. Each journey held a sense of familiarity, shaped by countless repetitions. Even small changes, new footprints, a fallen branch, or a shift in sunlight, added gentle variety to each walk. As you imagine this slow movement, let your breath follow the same steady rhythm. A gentle reminder, You can allow your thoughts to drift as softly as the footsteps on these paths. Most paths were simple dirt tracks, shaped by use rather than design. During warm seasons, they felt firm beneath bare feet or simple shoes. During rain, they softened into mud, slowing travel but never stopping it. People adapted naturally, stepping around puddles or choosing firmer ground. The land became a trusted guide, teaching subtle lessons about texture, weather, and timing. The worn lines of these paths connected every part of village life, weaving together daily routines with a quiet continuity. Groups sometimes traveled together, especially when carrying heavy loads or tending animals. The companionship made the walk feel lighter. Conversations flowed slowly, interspersed with long, comfortable silences. The steady sound of multiple footsteps created a soothing rhythm. Even without words, the shared pace offered reassurance, each person supporting the others simply by moving in the same direction. Traveling alone carried its own calmness. A person walking to gather herbs, deliver a message, or check fields might let their thoughts wander, guided by the peaceful surroundings. Birds calling from trees, the distant lowing of animals, and the rustle of wind through grass created a soundscape that steadied the mind. The land felt familiar, like a gentle friend offering quiet company. Take another soft breath. Let the stillness of these imagined paths settle around you like a quiet breeze. Distances in medieval life weren't measured by numbers but by experience. A task might be described as a short walk away or a bit past the fields. People understood time through the feel of the journey, the way sunlight shifted, how their breathing settled, or how far their footsteps echoed. This natural sense of distance made travel feel intuitive rather than calculated. Carrying goods added a purposeful weight to the journey. Baskets filled with vegetables, bundles of herbs, or small wooden tools rested comfortably against hips or shoulders. People balanced their loads with practiced ease, shifting weights steadily as they walked. The sound of items gently clinking or brushing together created a soft accompaniment to the movement. Animals sometimes joined these short travels. A goat guided to fresh grazing, a pair of chickens carried carefully, or a small dog following closely behind, all added life to the journey. Their movements created subtle rhythms, hoofbeats tapping softly, wings fluttering, or paws padding lightly across the earth. These small companions brought warmth and a sense of quiet friendship. Paths through fields held a different atmosphere from those near the village center. Tall grasses brushed against legs, insects buzzed softly, and the sunlight opened wide across the land. Each step pressed gently into the earth, leaving faint impressions that blended into the countless tracks before them. In these open spaces, people felt a calm connection with the land that shaped their survival. Another gentle reminder: if your breathing feels steadier now, let it remain steady. These rhythms are meant to guide you toward calmness. Roads leading into wooded areas carried their own charm. Trees stretched overhead, filtering light into shifting patterns on the ground. Leaves rustled with each breeze, creating a soft whispering sound that followed travelers through the shade. The coolness of the forest offered relief on warm days, while the scent of earth and moss deepened the sense of quiet. Even when travel required effort, like carrying water up a hill or guiding animals along uneven terrain, it unfolded with patience. People understood their limits and worked within them, resting when needed and adjusting their pace naturally. The land's contours shaped their movements, teaching them to move with nature rather than against it. Returning home after a short journey carried its own comfort. The familiar outline of the village appeared slowly, smoke rising from chimneys, distant voices, the soft glow of evening light on rooftops. Each return felt like stepping into a warm rhythm, a gentle transition from the openness of the path to the closeness of home. And as travelers crossed the final stretch of their walk, the calmness of the path remained with them, guiding their minds gently toward rest as evening approached. As the afternoon light softened, travelers often paused to appreciate the calm of the landscape. The sun lowered slowly, stretching shadows across the paths and fields. Colors deepened, greens becoming richer, browns warming into amber tones. This shift marked the natural winding down of the day. People adjusted their pace without thinking, letting the slower, cooler air guide their steps. The land seemed to quiet with them, as though everything shared the same gentle descent into evening. Some walks led to nearby water sources, streams with clear running water or shallow ponds reflecting the sky. Travelers often stopped here to rest, letting the cool air settle around them. The sound of flowing water offered a peaceful backdrop, steady and calming. Even a brief pause near these places provided comfort before continuing home. These natural resting points felt like small blessings along the path, easing the body and refreshing the mind. Take a slow breath as you imagine the sound of gentle water. Here's your soft reminder. Allow the rhythm of the scene to guide your thoughts without force. Paths that wound through fields held their own quiet beauty in the late hours of the day. Farmers finishing their work waved softly to those passing by. Tools rested against tree trunks or fence posts, waiting for the next day. Dust lifted gently with each footstep, drifting lazily in the low sunlight. Every detail carried the calm certainty of a life lived in natural cycles: work, rest, movement, return. In woodland areas, travelers experienced a different kind of stillness. As daylight faded, the forest darkened more quickly than open spaces. The canopy softened the sky's glow, leaving only gentle beams of light filtering between branches. Footsteps on fallen leaves created a soft, rhythmic rustle. Even the quiet animal sounds, wings fluttering, twigs snapping lightly, felt peaceful rather than startling. As the village grew closer, pathways became more familiar. A slight bend in the road, a patch of wildflowers, or the distant outline of a well signaled that home was near. These familiar markers brought reassurance. People could feel their bodies relax at the sight of them, knowing the journey was nearly complete. Evening often brought travelers together in the final stretch. Footpaths from various directions merged as people returned home from fields, markets, or neighboring homes. Quiet greetings were exchanged, small nods, soft words, gentle smiles. These brief encounters added warmth to the walk, reinforcing the sense of community that shaped medieval life. As you follow these quiet reunions in your mind, let your breath remain steady. This is another gentle reminder that you can rest into the softness of the imagery. The sounds of the village grew clearer with each step, the soft clatter of tools being stored, voices drifting from doorways, and the low hum of fire preparing for evening meals. These sounds formed a gentle welcome, guiding travelers toward the heart of the village. Even before reaching their homes, they could feel the shift from solitude to shared life. For those carrying goods, the final steps required one last adjustment of weight. A basket was lifted a little higher, a bundle held closer, or a tool balanced more comfortably. Despite the weight, there was relief in knowing the task was nearly done. The effort of the walk blended into the satisfaction of returning home. Children who had wandered slightly farther than usual hurried back along the path, drawn by the familiar glow of fires and the scent of warm meals. Their footsteps padded lightly across the earth, adding brightness to the evening atmosphere. Parents welcomed them with gentle glances, relieved to see them safe and close. As the village came fully into view, the soft colors of twilight wrapped around rooftops and fields. The shift from open paths to the warmth of home felt seamless. Travelers stepped across thresholds with quiet gratitude, bringing the calmness of the journey inside with them. And as night continued to settle, the gentle rhythm of medieval travel, steady footsteps, cool breezes, familiar paths, lingered like a soft echo, guiding each person toward a peaceful close to the day. Light inside a medieval home was soft, uneven, and deeply calming. As evening approached, the fire became the heart of illumination, its warm glow reaching only a short distance across the room. Shadows stretched gently across wooden walls, shifting with the small movements of the flame. This subtle, flickering light shaped the atmosphere of the home, guiding everyone into a slower rhythm as the day faded. Nothing felt harsh or overwhelming. The dimness wrapped the room in comfort. Other sources of light were simple and quiet. A small oil lamp or a candle, carefully tended and used sparingly, added a faint halo to the space. These lights weren't bright enough to chase away the night, but they were enough to soften the darkness. They created pockets of warm glow where hands could work or where a family might gather briefly. Every bit of light was valued, treated carefully, and used with intention. As you imagine these warm glows, take a soft breath. Here's your gentle reminder. You can let your thoughts drift into the dimness, following the slow movement of the flame. Sound inside the home carried a gentle echo, shaped by wood, stone, and packed earth. Each action, placing a bowl on the table, adjusting a blanket, or stepping across the floor, created soft, muted tones that filled the quiet. These sounds blended seamlessly into the room, becoming part of its nightly rhythm. The absence of modern noise made even small sounds feel significant, grounding, and steadying. The crackle of the fire offered a comforting backdrop. Sometimes the flame snapped lightly, or an ember shifted with a soft hiss. These tiny sounds drew attention without demanding it, creating a peaceful soundscape that encouraged calmness. Families learned to interpret these noises naturally, recognizing the quiet language of wood, heat, and air. Outside the walls, sound drifted in from the village. A distant voice, a closing door, or the soft steps of someone passing by blended into the nighttime atmosphere. These faint noises were reassuring, reminders that others were nearby living through similar routines. The village shared its quiet through these subtle echoes. Take another slow breath as you imagine this. Let your shoulders loosen just a little more. Wind created its own gentle presence within the home. It slipped through small gaps between boards or brushed softly against shutters. These breezes carried cool air that mingled with the warmth of the fire, creating a balanced comfort. The sound of the wind wasn't sharp. It whispered, hummed, and shifted like a calm companion moving around the house. The textures of the room also influenced the atmosphere. Wooden furniture creaked softly with temperature changes. Baskets rustled when brushed. Wool blankets whispered quietly as they moved. These small, natural sounds added an earthy character to the home, weaving themselves into the peaceful fabric of the night. In the dim light, familiar objects took on softer outlines. Tools hanging on the wall became gentle shadows. A folded garment became a rounded shape. The edges of everything blurred slightly, creating a scene that felt dreamy and hushed. The home looked different at night, calmer, more intimate, and more peaceful. If your breathing feels easier now, allow it to ease a little further. This is another gentle reminder to follow the calming pace of the room. Even the quiet of the home had its own sound. Silence wasn't empty. It held texture. It carried the warmth of the fire, the scent of herbs, the faint rustle of someone settling into a blanket. Silence acted like a soft blanket itself, smoothing over the roughness of the day and preparing the room for rest. Light and sound worked together to shape the emotional atmosphere of the home. The warm glow reduced tension, softening the edges of long hours of work. Gentle sounds steadied wandering thoughts. Together, they formed a comforting haven, a space where the body could slow down and the mind could release the weight of the day. As night approached fully, the lights dimmed even more. The fire settled lower, lamps were extinguished carefully, and the room shifted into its quietest form. The gentle atmosphere encouraged a slow descent into rest. In this dimness, every movement became more deliberate, every sound more meaningful. Children often drifted to sleep first, comforted by the room's warmth and murmured sounds. Adults finished their final tasks, moving softly in the low light to avoid disturbing anyone already resting. These movements created a delicate choreography, a nightly dance of calm presence. Outside, the night deepened. Crickets or distant animals added faint notes to the soundscape, blending with the air moving across rooftops. These natural noises entered the home gently, merging with its quiet atmosphere to create a peaceful tapestry of sound. And as the final minutes of evening slipped away, the combined glow, hush, and warmth wrapped the home like a protective cocoon, steady, familiar, and beautifully calm, guiding everyone gently toward sleep. As night deepened, the home transitioned into a space shaped almost entirely by quiet. The final embers of the fire glowed faintly, leaving only a soft halo of warmth that reached a few steps outward. Darkness didn't feel empty. It felt like a calm presence, allowing the mind to soften and drift. The stillness gave the home a grounded, restful character, inviting everyone to settle fully into the last stretch of the night. Occasionally, The settling of the house added small sounds to the quiet. Wood contracted slightly as the air cooled, creating gentle taps against the walls. Straw bedding shifted softly beneath someone's weight. Each faint sound reminded the household that the home was alive in its own organic way. Nothing startled. Everything simply blended into the deepening hush. Take a slow, steady breath. Here's your gentle reminder. Let your thoughts float without direction, just like the faint sounds drifting across the room. The quiet atmosphere inside made outdoor sounds more noticeable. A distant breeze brushing through leaves, the soft hooting of an owl, or the occasional movement of an animal in the field, all reached the ears of those lying awake. These sounds were not threatening. They were familiar parts of the landscape. They grounded the listener in the world beyond the walls, offering a soothing sense of continuity. When the wind strengthened slightly, shutters tapped lightly against their frames. The rhythmic pattern of wood touching wood acted almost like a lullaby. The movement of air across rooftops created a soft, steady hum, blending peacefully with the quiet inside. Even the cool drafts that slipped through small gaps felt gentle, reminding the family of the natural world that surrounded their home. In the dimness, the glow of remaining embers cast shifting silhouettes across the room. These faint shadows moved slowly, fading and reappearing like quiet breaths. They felt calming, almost dreamlike, shaping the atmosphere into something softer and more intimate. The room no longer felt like a place of work or activity. It had transformed into a sanctuary of rest. Another slow breath. Let your shoulders lower if they haven't already. This scene is meant to guide you into deeper ease. Small movements within the home carried a delicate weight at this hour. Someone shifting under a blanket, the quiet clearing of a throat, or a gentle sigh, all touched the quiet without disturbing it. These sounds signaled comfort, reminding everyone that they weren't alone in the night. The closeness of family members created a shared warmth that spread through the room. As the night settled further, even the fire's last glimmers faded, leaving the room in near darkness. The absence of light sharpened the senses subtly, making the soft textures of straw, wood, and fabric feel more pronounced. The home felt wrapped in its own stillness, the kind that draws the body naturally toward sleep. Outside, the world continued its slow movement. The moon drifted across the sky, shadows elongated and shifted, and the gentle rhythm of nighttime creatures filled the air. These distant sounds wove together with the home's quiet interior, creating a peaceful tapestry of night. Inside, the quiet reached its deepest point. Thoughts drifted slowly, no longer pulled by the tasks of the day. The soft atmosphere, shaped by dim light and gentle sound, held the family in a comforting embrace. Each small detail, the cooling air, the faint scent of wood smoke, the silence, supported the descent into rest. Here is your soft reminder. It's okay if your mind wanders or blurs. This scene is meant to cradle your thoughts, not demand focus. In this final stretch of the night, the home felt suspended between wakefulness and sleep. Every corner, every tool, every woven blanket rested quietly. The hush was so complete that even a single breath felt like part of the room's rhythm. And as the hours drifted by, the gentle blend of dimness, warmth, and subtle nighttime sounds held the household in peaceful stillness, guiding each person toward a deep and natural rest, steady, unbroken, and soothing all the way to the first light of dawn. Seasonal living shaped every part of medieval life, and nowhere was this more evident than in the way food was stored and protected. A family's survival through colder months depended on planning, patience, and an intimate understanding of the land. Each season offered different gifts, and people worked steadily to preserve them with care. The storage areas of a home, cool corners, clay jars, woven baskets, became quiet guardians of the household's nourishment, through the permission of the one who allows food to bring benefit. These spaces, though humble, carried a deep sense of importance. During harvest seasons, the home filled with activity. Grains were gathered, dried, and stored in sturdy containers that shielded them from moisture. Vegetables were laid out to cure, their surfaces firming under the warmth of the sun before being placed in storage. Fruits that lasted longer, like apples or pears, were arranged carefully, each one handled with gentle attention. The air carried the smell of earth and ripe produce, marking the transition from growth to preservation. This preparation wasn't rushed. It felt like a steady ritual, connecting families with the rhythm of the land. As you imagine this quiet preparation, take a soft breath. Here's your gentle reminder. Allow your thoughts to drift as naturally as the changing seasons. Dried foods formed an essential part of winter storage. Herbs were bundled and hung from beams, releasing faint scents that perfumed the room. Beans and legumes were spread out to dry fully before being sealed in jars or sacks. Some households dried strips of vegetables, creating lightweight, long-lasting ingredients for winter stews. These methods required time and attentiveness, but the results offered security. Small pieces of the warmer months preserved for colder days. Cool storage areas inside the home played an important role. A shaded corner, a cellar, or a simple pit lined with straw could hold vegetables for weeks or months. Root vegetables, especially, kept well when arranged carefully in layers of straw or sand. Each storage method reflected quiet experience passed from one generation to the next. Families knew exactly how to protect their food without modern tools, relying on the natural coolness of earth and air. Take another slow breath as you picture these spaces, dim, quiet, and filled with the calm promise of sustenance. Grains were among the most valuable stored foods. Wheat, barley, oats, and rye were dried thoroughly before being placed in sacks or large wooden containers. These grains formed the basis for bread, porridge, and many daily meals. The sound of grain being poured from one container to another, a soft, steady rush, became a familiar part of everyday life. Even months after harvest, this sound offered reassurance that the household was prepared. Seasonal living meant constant awareness of weather patterns. A sudden storm, an early frost, or a long stretch of rain could affect how food was gathered and stored. Families adapted quickly, adjusting their tasks to protect what they could. The rhythm of their work flowed naturally with these changes, shaped by attentiveness rather than urgency. If your breath slows with these images, let it continue to slow. This is another gentle reminder to ease your shoulders and soften your jaw. In addition to storing food, people planned their meals around what was available. Fresh ingredients were enjoyed during harvest months, while winter meals depended on preserved goods. This natural cycle created a sense of gratitude. Nothing taken for granted, every ingredient valued. Even simple meals felt meaningful because they were tied to the careful work of previous months. Wooden shelves in storage areas held clay jars filled with grains, dried herbs, and small preserved foods. These jars were sealed with cloth or wax, protecting their contents from moisture and insects. Each jar, each basket, represented many hours of work: sowing, tending, harvesting, drying, and storing. These quiet efforts formed the unseen foundation of daily meals. The atmosphere of storage spaces was calm and cool. Light was minimal, temperatures steady, and sound hushed. When someone stepped inside, their footsteps echoed softly against the packed earth or stone. The faint scent of dried herbs, wood, and preserved produce filled the air. These spaces carried a sense of peace, reflecting the slow, thoughtful energy of seasonal living. Harvest celebrations, though simple, often marked the completion of storage efforts. Families would take a moment to appreciate the fullness of their shelves and baskets. There was no excess, just enough to feel secure. This pause brought quiet satisfaction, acknowledging the cooperation between land, effort, and blessings from the one who provides through his creation. As the weather cooled, the importance of these stored foods became clear. Each meal drawn from storage brought comfort, a warm reminder of the earlier months when the sun was stronger and the days longer. Even the act of removing a jar from a shelf carried a sense of reassurance. Take a gentle breath. Let the rhythm of this seasonal movement settle warmly into your thoughts. The mindset of seasonal living brought a sense of patience to everyday life. Nothing was expected instantly. Everything unfolded in its own time. This slowed pace encouraged families to work steadily, rest steadily, and live in harmony with the cycles around them. And as autumn blended into winter, the careful work of storing food turned into a quiet blessing, offering warmth and nourishment through the coldest nights. Steady, dependable, and shaped by the calm understanding of the seasons. As winter edged closer, households made careful checks of their stored foods. Jars were examined for moisture, baskets were inspected for signs of pests, and root vegetables were rearranged to ensure proper airflow. These tasks weren't stressful, they were methodical, almost meditative. Families understood that tending to their food stores meant tending to their own well-being. This steady attention helped the home feel secure, even when the outside world grew colder and quieter. Meals during winter reflected the work done in earlier seasons. A pot of stew simmering over the fire might include dried beans, stored herbs, and root vegetables pulled from cool storage. The aroma that rose from the pot carried warm reminders of the harvest months. Each ingredient represented patience, effort, and the blessings granted through the one who allows the land to sustain life. Even simple bowls of porridge or bread felt more comforting when people knew the story of the work and planning behind them. Take a slow breath as you imagine this warmth spreading through the room. Here's your gentle reminder. Let your thoughts soften with the scene. Some storage methods extended beyond the home. In certain regions, families use small outdoor structures or underground pits to keep vegetables cool and fresh. These spaces relied on the Earth's natural temperature, offering steady protection without the need for tools or technology. Visiting these storage pits was often a quiet task, lifting a wooden lid, brushing away leaves, and retrieving what was needed before covering it again. The cool air rising from the earth felt grounding, connecting people to the land in a practical, gentle way. As the cold months deepened, households became more mindful of their supplies, not out of fear, but out of respect for the effort and resources given to them. Meals were portioned thoughtfully, ensuring that the food lasted until the land awakened again. This careful balance taught patience and gratitude, reminding families to use each stored ingredient wisely. Take another slow breath. Let the steadiness of the seasonal rhythm settle gently around your thoughts. Herbs dried earlier in the year became small treasures during winter. A pinch of dried mint, thyme, or sage added warmth and aroma to a pot of stew. Even the simple act of crumbling dried leaves between one's fingers released memories of summer sunlight and fragrant gardens. These scents brought comfort, filling the home with a sense of continuity from season to season. Grain storage remained central to the household's survival. Families checked their sacks often, listening to the soft rustle of kernels and making sure the contents stayed dry. Grinding grain for bread or porridge became a familiar winter sound, the rhythmic roll of stone against stone echoing softly in the quiet home. The resulting flour carried a sense of accomplishment, as though each meal honored the work of earlier months. For many households, the slow rhythm of winter offered more opportunities for indoor tasks. People mended clothing, repaired tools, or checked their storage areas again. These tasks filled the shorter days with steady purpose. The calm repetition brought comfort, turning even routine chores into moments of reflection. Outside, the land rested under cold winds or falling snow. Trees stood bare, fields lay dormant, and streams slowed or froze. Yet inside the home, the glow of the fire and the presence of well-kept stores created a sanctuary of warmth. The contrast between outside cold and inside comfort made each meal feel more meaningful. As you imagine this warmth, let your shoulders relax just a bit more. Here's your gentle reminder to release any remaining tension. Food storage wasn't only about survival, it was about preserving a sense of connection. Every jar, every bundle of dried herbs, every basket of grains held a memory of sunlight, soil, and earlier labor. Eating from these stores during winter brought those memories forward, filling the season with familiarity despite the long nights. As winter began to fade, the first signs of change appeared. Slightly longer days, softer winds, hints of thaw in the soil. Families adjusted gradually, preparing for planting and looking ahead to new harvests. Their stores grew lighter, not from lack, but from the natural cycle drawing toward renewal. And as the final stretch of winter passed, households looked upon their nearly empty baskets with quiet satisfaction, knowing they had worked steadily, lived patiently with the seasons, and shared the warmth of stored food through the coldest months, guided gently by the calm rhythm of medieval seasonal living. As the final light of day slipped beyond the horizon, medieval households eased into the quietest part of their routine. The long hours of work gave way to a gentle slowing, as if the whole home exhaled at once. Evening tasks came to a natural close, and the warm glow of the fire cast its last waves of comforting light across the room. Shadows grew longer, movement softened, and the pace of life shifted toward stillness. The transition into night wasn't abrupt. It unfolded gradually, like a blanket settling over the home. Inside, the atmosphere changed with each passing minute. Tools returned to their places, bowls were set aside, and baskets were stacked neatly for tomorrow's use. People moved with unhurried steps, conserving their energy after a long day. The room felt more spacious now that the activity had quieted. The slow dimming of the fire reminded everyone that rest was approaching, nudging the body into a gentler rhythm. As you imagine this scene, take a slow breath. Here's your gentle reminder. Let your thoughts ease into the same calm, allowing each detail to soften your mind. Families often gathered briefly near the fire before parting into their resting spaces. Conversations were quiet, consisting of soft reflections or simple words shared to close the day. These moments weren't formal or planned. They were spontaneous pauses of togetherness. The flicker of the fire illuminated calm faces, highlighting the ease that settled across the room after hours of steady work. Children grew sleepiest first, lulled by warmth and the soft hum of the evening. Their eyes grew heavy as they leaned against a parent or rested on folded blankets. The slow rhythm of night had a way of drawing them towards sleep without effort. Adults watched with gentle fondness, feeling their own energy slowly unwind. As the fire continued to shrink, its glow became softer and more focused. The brightest flames faded into embers, creating a warm bed of red light beneath the ash. This subtle illumination gave the room a quiet, dreamlike atmosphere. Objects lost their sharper edges, becoming silhouettes in the warm dimness. The peacefulness of the scene encouraged everyone to lower their voices and movements. Take another slow breath. Let your shoulders loosen. The quiet rhythm of night invites your own thoughts to drift. Before resting, families made sure the home was prepared for the long hours ahead. A few pieces of wood might be added to keep the embers alive, or a clay pot of water positioned safely nearby. Bedding was arranged, straw fluffed, blankets smoothed, layers adjusted. These small tasks created a sense of order, easing the mind toward rest. The familiarity of the routine added comfort, signaling that the day had reached its natural end. The cool air of night slipped through tiny gaps around the walls and door frames. This gentle chill was expected, and people adjusted their layers accordingly. Cloaks or blankets were pulled tighter, hoods settled over heads, and woolen wraps draped over shoulders. These adjustments felt like small acts of care, grounding everyone in the coziness of their home. Outside, the village grew quieter with each passing moment. The last footsteps faded, and distant voices softened into silence. Animals settled into their shelters, creating occasional rustles that drifted into the night. The world beyond the walls seemed to slow at the same pace as those inside, creating a shared stillness over the entire community. Here's a gentle reminder. Allow your mind to move as slowly as these final sounds. Let the calm settle deeper. Inside, the scent of the day lingered softly. Herbs from the evening meal, hints of wood smoke, and the earthy aroma of fabric and straw. These familiar scents mingled with the cool night air, creating a comforting blend that felt safe and grounding. This quiet sensory world made it easier for the mind to soften, encouraging sleepiness naturally. As people moved toward their sleeping spaces, the home's atmosphere shifted into true stillness. The soft rustle of blankets, the settling of wood, and a few final whispers were the only sounds. Even these faded quickly, leaving a near-perfect hush in their place. The darkness resting over the room wasn't heavy. It felt gentle, like a soft cover placed tenderly over everything. In these moments, thoughts drifted slowly. Bodies relaxed, breathing deepened, and minds released the demands of the day. Sleep didn't arrive all at once. It came gently, like a tide rising bit by bit, encouraged by the atmosphere of calm and the quiet shelter of familiar surroundings. The final minutes before sleep carried a special peace. Nothing remained to be done. Nothing required attention. The world outside was quiet, and the world inside held only warmth and softness. These moments prepared the heart and mind for rest in the most natural way. As the last ember glow dimmed further, the medieval home settled completely. Families drifted into sleep one by one, wrapped in layers of warmth and the comfort of routine. The night embraced them without hurry, guiding them toward rest as smoothly as the day had unfolded. And as you picture these final moments, let your own thoughts grow heavy and slow, following the peaceful rhythm of a medieval home preparing for sleep, steady, calming, and full of quiet reassurance. As the night deepened, the temperature in the home cooled in delicate waves. The warmth from the fire lingered, but only as a memory of earlier brightness. People nestled into their blankets, drawing them higher when a thin draft moved through the room. Each small adjustment, the pull of fabric, the soft shift of straw, became part of the home's nighttime melody. The quiet was not empty, it was full of subtle life, woven into the stillness of the dark. Even the slow movements of breath created a rhythm that filled the room. The rise and fall of chests, the soft exhale of someone slipping into deeper sleep, the near-silent murmur of drifting thoughts, all blended into a gentle chorus. This nightly sound was familiar and comforting, a peaceful reminder that everyone rested within the same quiet shelter. The calmness of shared rest carried a warmth far deeper than firelight. Take a slow breath as you imagine this softness. Here's your gentle reminder. Let the calm settle into your mind like a blanket of quiet air. Outside the home, the world continued in its own slow rhythm. A faint breeze brushed across rooftops, carrying cool night air between homes. Far-off animal sounds drifted gently, softened by distance. Somewhere in the darkness, leaves rustled, branches swayed, and the natural world hummed with its quiet nighttime pulse. Yet none of these sounds disturbed the peace inside. They floated only at the edges of awareness, like soft threads stitching the home into the surrounding calm. Within the home, thoughts gradually dimmed. The concerns of the day loosened their hold, drifting into the background. People surrendered to rest in their own time, some quickly, others slowly, but all were eventually drawn into the steady pull of sleep. The deep, velvety darkness allowed the mind to wander without strain, encouraging dreams shaped by routine, comfort, and the gentle rhythm of life. If your breath has softened with this imagery, let it soften a little more. This is another gentle reminder to sink deeper into relaxation. The fire, now little more than a faint glow, added a final warmth to the quiet. Its light flickered weakly, barely touching the edges of the room. Soon, it would fade completely, leaving the home in near total darkness. Yet this darkness never felt threatening. It felt calm, natural, and protective. It allowed the home to rest fully, just like the people within it. Sometimes someone would stir briefly, adjusting a blanket or shifting their position. A few faint whispers or breaths might rise and fade, but the quiet always returned. The heaviness of the night encouraged everyone back towards stillness. No one worried about the hour or the tasks of the next day. In this moment, rest was all that mattered. Outside, the moon continued its path overhead, casting pale light across the village. This gentle glow brushed rooftops and pathways, giving everything a soft, muted outline. The landscape rested, just as the people did. The harmony between the natural world and the quiet home created a shared sense of peace, stretching across the entire village. As dawn drew nearer, its presence was barely noticeable, a subtle shift in air, a thinning of darkness. But before that light arrived, the very last hours of night held a unique stillness. Time felt slower, thoughts gentler, rest deeper. The medieval home stood like a warm cocoon in the cool air, carrying its sleeping family gently toward the moment of waking. Another slow breath. Let your shoulders drop, your jaw soften, your thoughts float. In these final moments before the first hint of morning, calmness filled every corner of the home. The night had done its work, easing tired muscles, steadying thoughts, and wrapping the household in a deep and quiet comfort. Soon, the fire would be rekindled, chores resumed, and routines begun again. But for now, everything rested in peaceful balance. The medieval night didn't end with a sudden shift. Instead, It folded itself quietly into the start of a new day, soft, patient, and gentle, like a hand lowering into still water. The rhythm of rest flowed naturally into the rhythm of waking, carried by the same simplicity that shaped every part of medieval life. And as you step back from this quiet home, take a moment to hold the softness of the scene in your thoughts. Let the calmness remain with you, steady and warm. Thank you for listening to this gentle story. May the quiet rhythm of this medieval night bring you peace, comfort, and rest.